There we go. Financial markets ecosystem transformation. That's a little mouthful. Thanks for coming, everyone. It's been a great event so far. I'm really grateful to the whole team, the organizers, and they've been such a great job. I'm going to talk about investing. Humla Ventures, we are a venture capital firm, heavily focused in Bitcoin and like basically digital assets related stuff. So I'm going to start with just a quick little game. Has anyone seen this image before? No? Okay. So I want you guys just to count, just to perform a little experiment. Count how many faces and or bodies you see up there. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. How many people see 7? Raise your hand if you see 7. How many see 1? Can you see at least 1? Nobody wants to play. Please raise your hand if you're not going to do anything I asked today. Okay, good. Okay, so how many people see 10 faces? How many people see 9 faces? Clearly 9 faces, okay? So, as an exercise, I'm not going to change anything with the picture. I'm just going to change my instructions, which are look very carefully for the 10th face. What if I told you that the 10th face was, let me see if this works. What if I told you that the 10th face was actually not a human face? Then you can kind of look at it a little bit differently, right? So what if I told you it was hidden in the image somewhere else? You see it now, yes? So raise your hand if you see 10 faces and or bodies now, right? So what if I told you that it was a zebra? You start to look for a zebra in there, right? You see it here, right? There's a little zebra here, little ears, a body here. Why is this a fun experiment? Is that this is a concept of a paradigm shift. Everyone's heard of a paradigm shift before, right? So we're looking at the exact same data that you looked at 2 seconds ago. I just changed the framing of the question and your framing of the data. So the data didn't change, just your image. So hopefully what I talk about today will help you give a little bit of paradigm shifting, a little bit of different way to look at the Bitcoin ecosystem and how it's coming along. My thesis as a firm is that we're in the middle of a transformation. That first there was a consumer markets transformation, basically where everything moved on to the internet. Then there was a business SaaS transformation, which is another couple $1 trillion. And then now we're entering a new era, which is this transformation of financial markets, which you just saw the panel, excellent panel before about securitized tokens, but why don't we see securitized tokens everywhere? The technology's been there. Well, I think there's a bunch of reasons. And I think this is the biggest transformation we're going to see from a tech standpoint. Our firm is basically just a venture capital firm. We do early stage venture. We also do secondary venture. We do syndicates, and then we also do venture as a service for some corporates and family offices. Mainly, we're just a specialist in doing venture capital investment, and we're we try and be savvy in the crypto side, specifically Bitcoin, and we got our start cooperating with XPTO, one of the earliest Bitcoin market makers. These are some of our investments. We're kind of like not the most famous name you might know, but we have 55 investments, including early checks into Deribit, Stablehouse, Amber Data for data on Wall Street. We're in Kiln, which is a staking platform. We're in Namo21, which is a credit AI for Wall Street. JP Morgan uses their software. We're in Paradigm, which is the RFQing system for options. We're very big in doing derivatives-related technologies. We also invested in Hidden Road Partners, which is the prime brokerage that's integrating with various companies. We're in Impervious. We're in all the accounting platforms, Luca, Bitwave, Vic.ai. So that being said, where are we going to go? I want to talk to you about how I see Bitcoin basically evolving, and this is kind of the summary of my thesis. There's a few different things here. First of all, is that I'm a huge believer in Bitcoin. I've been in Bitcoin for a number of years. We invested in Deribit already in 2017. But essentially for now, I don't think that Bitcoin can reach its potential yet. And that's because the ecosystem has to precede the utility of the entity of the network itself. The asset already exists, but how is it going to go? So first of all, I'm what I would call a stablecoin maximalist right now, so I'm a big fan of Tether. I think Tether is what enabled what we have today more than Bitcoin did, in fact, because it created this lever to go in and out of the markets without going into the banking system. Real world assets must be digitized completely before they go on chain. This is something that a lot of people miss when they do these tokenizing panels and stuff like that, or Securitize and Provenance. All these guys want to jump from, hey, we've got this mortgage, let's make an NFT out of it and get to work. There's a ton of stuff that has to happen in the real world. That's like saying in the 80s when music was still on cassette tapes, like, hey, I'm going to start Spotify next week. Well, there was no MP3s. And that's where I believe we are with the digital assets thing. Dark pools in the investment banks are going to remain a thing. They're going to remain a thing for as long as any of us can be doing in finance. To imagine that they will go away is quite a big imagination. Inter-protocol solutions like Layer 0 are key to a necessity of the phase. Prime brokerage, ETFs, these stuff that BlackRock's is super key to the next adoption. Custody still sucks. We still see custody breaches, security problems at the biggest, most established custody situations there are, so it's something that we need to worry about. Options and derivatives market are super key to the evolution of this market and super key to pricing. And when I see pricing, it's like, we call it in finance, we call that price discovery, like finding the right price for Bitcoin or other assets. Everything, in my opinion, will end up in Bitcoin, but the journey will be full of shit, stables, regulatory puke, everything has to be solved. And then the key opportunity for actors that bridge this TradFi Bitcoin are these pioneers are going to be where there's a lot of opportunity to make a big difference, to make money, to leverage and find alpha on top of the Bitcoin alpha that everybody already sings. And venture capital is my main tool for doing that. Been investing for 15 years, got involved in Bitcoin-related investing for venture around 17 when I was joining the Expedio team. And we've, as I said before, we're in around 55 companies. We're deploying early stage, and now we do a lot of secondaries where we look for established good companies and we compress the J-curve so we're able to invest later at a lower risk, at a lower price, and then have faster returns for our investors. That's what this last document here. So I do venture capital investing early stage, which is where I like, and then I do later stage, but I do it as a secondary investor, meaning that I look for investors that are distressed and I buy their shares of a good company. So this is my favorite statement, which is I think Bitcoin it moves glacially slow, and it's by design, but it is designed to be inevitable. So when everyone gets frustrated, like you look around and this conference is really good, but why isn't it as big as Token 2049 or one of these big ones? And that's because it's part of design. Bitcoin is designed to be the secure asset. It's designed to be a reserve asset. It's designed to have a lot of functionality that's needed in emerging markets. And if you follow Innovator's Dilemma, which is Clay Christensen's work, he has a really nice book called The Innovator's Solution, where he says the key to getting an innovation adopted is to take it to markets where non-consumption is the only alternative. And we're seeing that now with like El Salvador or in some of these emerging markets where people are using Tether and Bitcoin all the time, even though it's illegal in their nation, or it's very hard for them to utilize it. This is my little curve of how I see the Bitcoin utility is definitely on its way, but we need to focus on the ecosystem utility. And when I say ecosystem, I'm a little bit less focused on we do have a couple payments investments, but more on like the financial markets and how the asset will interact with the regulatory regimes, how it will be traded, how it will interact with the TradFi actors. And when we say TradFi actors, we mean like Wall Street and London, the city. A lot of these people are managing enormous amounts of capital. They're putting enormous amounts of capital to work in innovation and investing, but not coming to our sector. So why is that? So this is my little pyramid of how I see things working, which is eventually everything will end up on Bitcoin. I had a little this one on Bitcoin, but a lot of Bitcoiners talk a lot of shit about shitcoins and other altcoins, and Bitcoin's the only true asset. The reality is that there's a lot of rules that have prevented the everyday person from investing in technology. And there's a lot of ideas out there, and we'll talk about a couple examples like that. But a lot of those things get funded by this kind of crowdsourcing, open network of, and there's a lot of scams. Like 99.9% of them are scams. But what's happening is we're seeing an enormous amount of ideas being mixed around. And in Bitcoin, the quality is going to just flow up the pyramid. And eventually, if we shoot 30 years down the line, my belief is that everything will have some sort of security connection to Bitcoin as a global asset basis system for the future of financial markets. We're seeing a lot of that with the Taproot assets. I know Elizabeth's coming to make announcements. And I know Fedi has his I know that Obi has his Federation stuff coming out, and we have all these kind of cool. We have all the ordinals are a good example where the shitcoin world came up with NFTs. Everything kind of came about, and then all of a sudden, the Bitcoin community found a way to do something similar on Bitcoin, and now it's a slower growing but important part of the asset world. So stablecoins as stablecoin maxi. Our belief is that stablecoins will become more and more important. We already see them at I think Tether's at 70 billion in assets. What does it say here? It's 83 billion in market cap. The interesting thing on this page is this number here. Oops. There, where you see that more than a third of Tether is turned over on a 24-hour basis. There's no other coin, Bitcoin, and no other coin like that. That means that Tether is being used way more than anything else out there. Tether also is going to be critical as we see these ETFs come online, and as financial markets come online. More and more people are getting disillusioned with international banking. We may move to a bipolar financial system with the BRICS nations starting a BRICS coin. So that means that there's going to be a place for a stable asset that is not, that does not have the volatility of Bitcoin or the uncertainty or lack of security of any other coin. So stables should increase more, which is, I guess, great for Paolo's business and Giancarlo's business. But Tether is really an amazing feat. The fact that they've stayed independent, and all stable coins become more and more important. So I continue to think that. So there's 60 trillion of assets. That's how big an opportunity we're talking about here. There's 60 trillions of assets that are just sitting on the sidelines, not in Bitcoin, not in your everyday other coin, not in stable coin. It's just sitting there and looking for the next stable asset class. Right now you have very high interest rates, so that's competing with us quite a bit. But I think we're going to see some change soon. And so the killer apps so far are essentially just these. You see everyone try and make 1,000 different apps, but really it's just trading in digital assets, stable coins for value transfer, DeFi and yield has become a killer app. NFTs, that kind of play to earn stuff, is a killer app, although I'm very skeptical about that space. This concept of DAOs, payments from Lightning, industry integration, this stuff is promising, but they haven't yet got that kind of massive throughput of user adoption. So, how many people here have used Bitcoin to buy something? How many people use Lightning to buy something? I guess. How many people live here in Lugano? Okay, so. How many people have used another coin to buy something? Interesting. Okay. How many people don't know what Bitcoin is? Okay, just checking. So the journey for real-world assets. This is a key thing, and for our strategy, it's a key element. Is that my belief is that there's a step missing in most of the blockchain world or the investor world's stages, where everyone wants to embrace real-world assets. They want to put debt, fixed income on chain. They want to put houses on chain, mortgages on chain, all this art, that kind of stuff. And they want to just jump here and quickly get that Bitcoin stuff working, and let's use Taproot and put it on chain. And we're missing this thing that I mentioned earlier, which is is like the music industry. So when the music industry found out that CDs were cheaper than cassette tapes and vinyl, they converted all the music in the world into MP3s. And then they started loading them on CDs to sell because they got to save a lot of money in their packaging and distribution. That was the beginning of the end for the music industry as we knew it, but it also created the opportunity for Apple Music and then Spotify. Those two things would never have existed if we didn't first digitize the music. So how many people here have invested in fixed income before? Made a loan to somebody, taken a loan to buy a house? All that stuff is the biggest industry in the world, which is credit, and it's still all done with PDF contracts and Excel spreadsheets. That's basically how JP Morgan manages their sell-side desk. They have a bunch of PDFs in a folder, and then they have spreadsheets, and then when it's time to sell a portfolio of 1,000 loans, they hire White and Case to get a bunch of associates and put Post-it notes on all those contracts and code them up and say, oh, these contracts have this maturity date and these ones are anomalous and blah, blah, blah. And that's how they do it. We invested in a company called Namu21, which is an AI tool for scanning all those PDFs and turning it into a Carta-like or a Schwab-like interface for JP Morgan. Why do we invest in that? Because I'm here at a Bitcoin conference. How is that important? That's important because I believe that that's the way that we need to get to the CDs of credit. We need I guess it's a pun. That's a way to get credit on to a digital format so that we can then take them on chain. Once credit becomes on chain, we have yields can be done automatically. We can do covenants automatically. We don't need judges. We don't need like a whole infrastructure to manage that fixed income for investors. And this we now have JP Morgan using it everywhere. We also have number of other banks are about to use that software. Once they have unique identifiers for every piece of every loan out there, the AI tool actually can go through. You have a ChatGPT-like interface. You have an interface where you can see which ones are have good higher coupons, which ones are maturing earlier or later. You can separate them in different tranches. You can sell them. They have both a non-fungible as a group, and then they have fungibility, non-fungibility as individual clickable contracts, and then they're fungible as a group, which means that the next stage we can do with Namu21 is make a partnership with another investment we made, like Omega or someone else, and they can basically take all those assets on chain and eventually put them onto Bitcoin in some way, especially if we have like taproot assets. So this is the process that I think we need to go through, and that's where we invest. So how much on time do I have? There's supposed to be a timer somewhere. Huh? 7 minutes? Okay, cool. Anyone have any questions so far?
How long do you think it would take?
To do what?
This process to have a fungible ecosystem.
To have, yeah, so I guess it depends who you talk to in the sector. Like if you say like to have securitized tokens, they exist now. I think the real question you're asking is when is the 60 trillion going to be connected to our Bitcoin market? And I think that there's a number of things that are going in the right direction. And specifically like the ETFs are, I think I have a slide about that coming up here. You know, the ETFs are probably going to be approved in the next three months. It's not that that's going to bring us to that point, but this is getting the institutional players in line with us. So I would say, I could say that Tether maybe hits $1 trillion of assets in the next 4 years, and maybe 5 years, maybe. And that is going to be coinciding with a lot of hedge funds coming online. So like a good example is one of our investments called Hidden Road Partners. I don't have a slide for them, but they are a prime brokerage. So a big thing that's preventing hedge funds from coming on chain is that hedge funds are not Bitcoiners, and they don't want to have custody of bearer instruments. Right? They don't have someone on staff that can manage private keys, and they don't want that risk. The way that all exchanges work outside of crypto is you have a prime brokerage, or you have an exchange that manages the ownership of the assets, and that's prime brokerage. And now we have FalconX, and we have Hidden Road Partners, and a few others have made real prime brokerage. So now Soros or Apollo can say, okay, now we want to put, we want to put $100 million into crypto. They give it to Falcon X or to Hidden Road Partners, and then they call them up and say, put 10 million onto Deribit exchange for options trading, and then that goes there. So that I think is around the corner. I think basically they're going live with all these integrations this year. So we're going to have the ability of hedge funds to trade crypto, especially options and futures, without actually having to hold custody of them. So I think on the continuum, it's going to be 10 years before, 10, 15 years before everything is integrated. But how much of that is going to go? It's going to be like a curve. You have a question?
My question is, since I mean, your presentation is great.
Thank you.
As a young guy, I learned from my family side that Bitcoin only. That's how I got into all this stuff.
Right.
Do you choose stable coins over Bitcoin, and why? Or if so,
So his question is, do I choose stablecoins over Bitcoin? It's kind of a misnomer, and I kind of say it with facetiousness that I'm a stablecoin maximalist. I'm actually a Bitcoin maximalist. I believe stable Bitcoin is the ultimate. It's super important. It's a big percentage of my net worth is in Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin is the most important asset. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the most important inventions in human in kind of like in several generations. It's a super important asset. The reason why I say stablecoins are so important is because you couldn't really manage an interaction with the Bitcoin asset without a bank account, without stablecoin. So if Tether didn't exist, you'd go into Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin reaches its max, and you're like, oh, it's too high, I want to sell it, or I want to take some money out to go buy something, or I want to take a break, and then you'd have to put it back in your bank account, and then that's another transaction with KYC and interaction. With Tether, you can go into Bitcoin, or you can go into the crypto world and sit there and wait for the right time to buy your Bitcoin, or you can move from Bitcoin to options or options, whatever. And I think this is actually quite interesting. I don't really understand why we have this kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Why we have this? Oops. Why we have this kind of flattening out here? There's something artificial happening in my opinion. I don't really know what's going on there. But this adoption is basically like stable coins are the other side of the same coin as Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we wouldn't have this kind of progress with government adoption, asset appreciation if we didn't have the stablecoin possibility. If Paolo and Phil and Giancarlo didn't invent, and Craig, if they didn't invent Tether when they did, we wouldn't be where we are today. That's my main point. Go ahead. Yeah. No, digitize. They need to digitize before they go on chain. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, they need pain, or they need to see a lot of. I think that's a good point. He says that there needs to be some sort of pressure. I think we're going to see the pressure now. We're seeing world events. Oops, we're running out of time. We're seeing world events pressurize things now. But generally, what I think is that the pressure of the fact that the existing assets are getting inflated out is going to be a problem. I think the introduction of a bipolar financial world is a problem. And I think that basically that's why I do venture capital in the space, is because I don't think that they're going to come easily. There needs to be applications and tools that they use to get them halfway there. Once it's digitized, like once every single credit on the sales desks and all the buy-side desks has a unique identifier, which it doesn't right now, then turning on blockchain is easy. It's an easy step. Go ahead. Well, I think that there's two aspects. There's new products, and we can see here investment banking products. And then there's existing products. And I think credit is the one that, basically loans are the most logical, but they're the hardest to get there because of these kind of legacy systems. I'm running out of time, but that's the question. And so we're making a lot of bets. We did insurance with names, so we think insurance products are key, and we think so this is kind of like where I think that we need this infrastructure for managing. I think the key thing here is dark pools. Dark pools are the capital that UBS Investment Bank and Bank of America and JP Morgan, they have all these capital sources they want to hide from the capital needs so they can make money on those transactions. And they're going to come up with their own coins. There's going to be stable coins, CBDCs, Bitcoin, and there needs to be an interaction of all of them. So this is a good example of where we stand. Deribit is right there. If you look at the history of options, this is where options are. It's more than 1-to-1 in major options for equities. And in Bitcoin, we're still at a fraction of that number. Some bioengineering of the transformation here. I am running out of time, so I'm just going to kind of click forward. I'm going to mention that we are going to have a financial markets ecosystem conference next winter. So if you guys want to add me on Twitter or Telegram, that Profit is my name on everything, so it's the same, whether it's Twitter, Telegram, Instagram, whatever. But sorry that I had so little time. Hopefully this was interesting for you guys. Want to give a round of applause to the organizers. Thank you guys for a great job. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys. Follow me, chat with me. If you guys are looking to invest in syndicates or invest in venture capital funds, reach out to me. And then if you have good ideas, my team is we're half in Europe, half in the U.S. So we're everywhere. So thanks everyone. Cheers.